The birthday party lights sparkled, and everyone was celebrating my wife Grace's 30th birthday. I stood on stage, holding the microphone, watching her exchange glances with another man, and coldly announced, "Grace and I have decided to divorce." The banquet hall instantly fell silent. Everyone stared at us in shock. I pulled out photos, held them high in the air. "What is this?" The photos showed intimate moments of her and Kevin at a hotel. Grace's face changed drastically, and she glared at me. "Ethan, are you crazy?" The man had already fled the scene in a hurry. "Everyone see this." I scattered the photos into the air. "This is my wife's true colors. All of you present are our friends, and I want you to know the truth." Whispers erupted in the banquet hall. Everyone was quietly discussing the sudden turn of events. Aunt rushed onto the stage, grabbing my arm. "Ethan, what are you doing? Can't we resolve this in private?" "Resolve it in private?" I sneered. "Aunt, your daughter has been cheating for half a year. I gave her a chance, but she chose to continue deceiving me." Grace's eyes were filled with tears, but I knew they weren't tears of remorse, but of humiliated rage after being exposed. "Ethan, you've gone too far." She pointed at me, her voice trembling. "Even if I did something wrong, you shouldn't humiliate me in front of so many people." "Humiliate?" I shook my head. "Grace, either one who betrayed our marriage. What right do you have to say I am humiliating you?" Guests below the stage began leaving in twos and threes. No one wanted to stay in such an awkward situation. I watched the banquet hall gradually empty, a mix of emotions swirling within me. 3 years of marriage had come to an end on her 30th birthday. After leaving the banquet hall, I went straight home. This house was bought when we got married, and every corner was filled with memories. But now, these memories had become painful reminders. I sat on the couch, pulled out my phone, and scrolled through those photos. A private detective had given them to me 2 months ago. I hadn't used them, hoping Grace would confess on her own, but she hadn't. Instead, she had gotten worse, even pretending nothing was wrong last night, sweetly making birthday wishes in front of me. The doorbell rang. I opened the door and saw Grace standing there, her eyes red. She had changed out of her birthday dress, and was wearing simple clothes. "Ethan, let's talk." Her voice was soft. "There's nothing to talk about." I was about to close the door, but she blocked it with her hand. "Please, let me explain." Grace's eyes were full of pleading. I hesitated, then let her in. After all, we had been married for 3 years. Some things needed to be said clearly. Grace sat on the couch, head bowed, twisting her fingers. "Ethan, I know I was wrong." "Wrong?" I sneered. "Grace, do you even know what you did wrong? I shouldn't have betrayed you, shouldn't have been with Kevin." She looked up at me. "But you're so responsible." Hearing that, I almost laughed in exasperation. "I am responsible. Busy with work every day. You don't care about me at all." Grace's voice grew louder. "How long has it been since we had a real conversation? How long since we traveled together? So you cheated." I stood up, looking down at her. "Grace, is that your logic?" "I didn't mean to. I was just too lonely." She started crying. "Kevin, he really cared about me. He'd talk to me. He'd buy me gifts." "Enough." I cut her off. "Grace is still making excuses for cheating. Do you think that's appropriate?" "I am not making excuses. I am just telling the truth." She wiped away her tears. "Ethan, if you had paid more attention to me earlier, we wouldn't be in this situation." I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. "Grace, I admit I am busy with work, but that's no reason for you to cheat." "And the K talking about was that in a hotel room." Her face instantly flushed, and she had nothing to say. "All right, even if my being busy with work is my fault." I sat back on the couch. "Then why didn't you just tell me? Why did you choose to betray me?" "I did tell you, but you always said after this project, after that project." Grace looked at me. "Ethan, do I even have a place in your heart anymore?" Her words silenced me. It was true. For the past 2 years, I had worked tirelessly for my career, spending little time with Grace, but that didn't mean I didn't love her. I just wanted to give her a better life. "Even so, you shouldn't have cheated." I finally held my ground. "Grace, if you were truly unhappy with our marriage, you could have asked for a divorce, instead of being with another man behind my back." "I don't want a divorce. I love you." She suddenly grabbed my hand. "Ethan, can we start over? I swear I'll never betray you again. I looked at her tear-streaked face, a complex mix of emotions welling up inside me. 3 years of shared history weren't something I could just let go of. But betrayal was betrayal, that was an unchangeable fact. Grace, some things, once broken, can never be fully repaired. I gently pulled my hand away. Let's get a divorce. The next day, I went to the law firm. Mr. Ethan, based on the evidence you've provided, this divorce case shouldn't be an issue. The lawyer looked at the photos and recordings on the table. However, if your wife doesn't agree to the divorce, we might need to file a lawsuit through the court. Shall agree? I nodded. Please prepare the divorce agreement. All right, and regarding asset division, she gets the house, I'll take the car. I thought for a moment. Bank savings, split 50-50. The lawyer looked somewhat surprised. Mr. Ethan, legally, the cheating party typically receives less in asset division. I know, but I don't want to drag this out. I stood up. Please prepare the agreement as soon as possible. I want to settle this quickly. After leaving the law firm, I drove to the office. On the way, I received a call from my mother-in-law. Ethan, was there some misunderstanding about yesterday's events? Aunt's voice was urgent. Grace has always been a good kid since she was little. She wouldn't do something like that. Aunt, whether your daughter did something like that, you should ask her yourself. I replied calmly. I've already decided to divorce her. Ethan, you've only been married for 3 years. You can't divorce over a small disagreement. Aunt continued to persuade. Grace is very remorseful now. Just give her another chance. Aunt, cheating is not a small disagreement. I pulled over and said seriously, and betrayal is either a one-time thing or it's endless, but is still husband and wife. Aunt, I appreciate your kindness, but I won't change my mind about this. I cut her off. Please also persuade Grace not to make unnecessary struggles. After hanging up, I continued driving to the office. At the office, my colleagues looked at me strangely. It seemed the birthday party incident had already spread. Mr. Ethan, are you all right? Sarah, the secretary, asked with concern. I am fine. Back to work, I replied blandly, then walked into my office. At noon, my college buddy Mike called me. Ethan, I heard you and Grace got divorced. Mike's voice was surprised. Yeah, she cheated. I replied simply, holy cow. Really? Grace doesn't seem like that kind of person. Mike was clearly shocked. You can't judge a book by its cover, I said with a wry smile. Never mind, let's not talk about her. Buddy, how about we grab a drink tonight? Mike suggested. You shouldn't bottle things up at a time like this. I thought about it. I really did need a place to vent. Okay, I'll meet you at our usual spot. That evening, Mike and I met at our usual bar. The atmosphere was good for talking. So, tell me, what exactly happened? Mike poured me a drink. I briefly recounted the events, and Mike shook his head after listening. Grace really went too far. You were so good to her. Let's not dwell on the past, I said, downing my drink in one gulp. Looking back now, it should have ended sooner. Why do you say that? She changed a lot over the past 2 years, becoming more materialistic and vain. I thought back to every little detail from those 2 years. She used to ask if I was tired from work. Now she only asks if my salary has increased. Mike nodded. Yeah, I noticed she'd changed the last time I saw her. Her tone of voice was different. Maybe I was too slow, only realizing there was no love left between us. After finding out she cheated, I gave a self-deprecating laugh. Or rather, she had no love left for me. Don't think like that, buddy. Mike patted my shoulder. Everyone runs into a toxic woman or two. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. I know. I nodded. Actually, now that I think about it, divorce is a release for both of us. We talked until late before parting ways. When I got home, I saw Grace still waiting for me, in the living room. Where were you? She stood up and asked. Out drinking with a friend. I changed my shoes, preparing to go upstairs. Ethan, I've thought about it. We really can't get a divorce. Grace blocked my path. Why? I stopped. Because there's still love between us. Because we loved each other so much. Tears started welling up in her eyes again. Ethan, do you truly not love me at all anymore? I looked at her, my heart a tangle of emotions. Love. Maybe a little bit remained, but that bit had been almost entirely eroded by her betrayal. Grace, Love needs trust as its foundation, I said softly, and you've already destroyed that foundation. The next morning, when I woke up, Grace was no longer home. A note was left on the table. Ethan, I am going to stay at my MOMS for a few days, so we can both cool off. I picked up the note and continued with my normal life. Honestly, without Grace at home, I felt much lighter. In the morning, the lawyer called to say the divorce agreement was ready, and asked me to come review it. Mr. Ethan, this is the agreement drafted according to your requests. The lawyer handed me the document. Please review it to see if any modifications are needed. I read through it carefully. There were no major issues. This looks fine. When can she sign it? You can show it to her first. If she agrees, we can schedule a time for the official signing. I nodded, took the agreement, and returned to the office. In the afternoon, Grace sent me a text message. Ethan, I need to see you. There's something very important I need to tell you. I hesitated, then replied, okay, 7 p.m. at the coffee shop. The coffee shop we agreed on was where we had our first date. Filled with memories, when I arrived, Grace was already waiting for me. Today she wore light makeup and a white dress I liked very much, looking delicate and vulnerable. Here, she stood up, looking at me somewhat nervously. Go on, what's so important? I sat across from her and placed the divorce agreement on the table. Grace saw the agreement, and her face instantly turned pale. You're really going to divorce me? This is something we'll have to face sooner or later, I said calmly. Take a look at the agreement. If there are no issues, just sign it. She picked up the agreement, flipped through a few pages, and tears started falling. Ethan, can't we really start over? Grace, we've already discussed this. I looked at her. The fact that you cheated won't change, and the trust between us can't be rebuilt. But I truly know I was wrong. She grabbed my hand. Ethan, I swear I'll never betray you again. I gently pulled my hand away. Grace, what meaning do vows hold for someone who has already betrayed them? You just don't trust me that much. She cried even harder. You're the one who made me unable to trust again. I sighed. Grace, if you were unhappy with our marriage back then, you could have completely leveled with me. We could have tried to change things, or parted ways peacefully, but you chose the most hurtful path. I was just momentarily confused. I sneered. Grace, you were with Kevin for half a year. Is that momentarily confused? My words left her speechless. She just kept crying. Other customers in the coffee shop were looking at us, and I felt a bit awkward. All right, stop crying. I handed her a tissue. Let's part ways amicably and not make it harder for each other. Ethan, what if I told you I am pregnant? Grace suddenly said. I froze for a moment, looking at her. What? I am pregnant, 2 months along, she said, touching her stomach. It's our child. The news was like a bolt from the blue, leaving me momentarily unsure how to react. Are you sure? I asked. IVE already been checked, and I am confirmed pregnant. She handed me a lab report. I looked at the results on the lab report, my mood becoming complicated. If was truly pregnant, then things would be different. This child, are you sure it's mine? I finally asked the cool question. Grace's face instantly turned ashen. Ethan, how can you think that of me? How do you expect me to think? I looked at her. You betrayed me, so how can I be sure who the father of this child is? Ethan, you're going too far. She stood up angrily. This child is absolutely yours. All right, then let's go to the hospital for a paternity test. I also stood up. If the child is mine, I'll take responsibility, but if not, you don't trust me. She glared at me. The word trust, you've personally destroyed it, I said coldly. Grace suddenly sat back down, covering her face and starting to cry loudly. Ethan, you've changed. You've become so cold. You're the one who made me cold. I sat back down. Grace, if you're truly pregnant, and the child is indeed mine, then we can postpone the divorce. However what? She looked up at me. However, that doesn't mean I've forgiven you, I said seriously. We can continue this marriage for the child, but there will be no more love between us. Leaving the coffee shop, my mood became even more complicated. If was truly pregnant, then I had to consider the child's feelings. Although I hated her betrayal, the child was innocent. Back home, Grace was already there, sitting on the couch, lost in thought. Well, go to the hospital for a checkup tomorrow, I told her. Okay, she nodded. Ethan, thank you for being willing to consider the child. I am just fulfilling a father's responsibility, I replied coldly, but this doesn't mean our problems are solved. The next day, we went to the hospital together. The doctor confirmed Grace was indeed pregnant, and the fetus was developing normally. Doctor, we'd like to get a paternity test, I said to the doctor. The doctor seemed a bit surprised. The fetus is too small right now. You'll have to wait until after 16 weeks to do an amniocentesis for a paternity test. I nodded. Then we'll come back in 16 weeks. Leaving the hospital, Grace remained silent. You don't believe this child is yours? She finally asked. Grace, how do you expect me to believe you? I stopped and looked at her. You were with Kevin for half a year. How am I supposed to know whose child this is? He and I never. She stopped herself. Never what? I pressed. Never. That way, she said, lowering her head. I could barely believe my ears. You mean, you didn't have sex? We did, but we always used protection. Her face flushed, and the timing doesn't match. The doctor said I am 2 months pregnant, and at that time, I hadn't been with him. Even though she said that, I still decided to wait until the paternity test could be done to confirm. During this waiting period, our relationship became very delicate. I didn't bring up divorce again, but I also hadn't forgiven her. We lived under the same roof like strangers. Grace's pregnancy sickness was severe. She often felt nauseous and vomited. Although I would take care of her, it was purely out of responsibility, not love. One night, she suddenly asked me, Ethan, if the child is indeed yours, will you forgive me? I thought for a long time before answering. Grace, the child is one thing, our relationship problems are another. Even if the child is mine, I can't love you the way I used to. Her tears fell again. Why? I've already admitted my mistake, because trust, once broken, can never be fully repaired. I looked at the night outside the window. Grace, you'll never understand that. When I found out you betrayed me, half of my heart died. But I truly know I was wrong. Knowing you were wrong means it never happened. I turned to look at her. Grace, if I cheated and then told you I knew I was wrong, would you forgive me? She froze, unable to speak for a long time. See? Even you can't do it. So why do you expect me to? I shook my head. Never mind. Get some rest. Time passed quickly, and soon it was time for the paternity test. The moment I received the test results, my emotions were a mixed bag. The results showed that the child was indeed mine. Now do you believe me? Grace looked at the report, a hint of triumph in her eyes. I believe you now. I nodded. Then, for the child, let's continue this marriage. Ethan, can you truly not forgive me? She asked again. I looked at her, and said seriously, Grace, I can continue to be your husband, and I can take care of you and the child, but I can't love you anymore. This is the price of betrayal. Her face turned very grim, but she eventually nodded. Perhaps she thought a child could tie me down, but she didn't know that a marriage without love was actually more painful than divorce. The child was born, a boy. Looking at this tiny life, a strange feeling welled up inside me. Although my relationship with Grace was broken, this child was innocent. He was my blood. Let's give him a name, Grace said weakly from her hospital bed, looking at me. Let's name him Leo. I thought for a moment and said, I hope he can distinguish right from wrong in the future. Grace nodded, offering no objection. After being discharged from the hospital, our life as a family of 3 began. I was very dedicated to the child, helping to take care of him every day after work. But for Grace, I only fulfilled the basic duties of a husband. We rarely communicated, except about the child. Grace seemed to realize the abnormality of the situation, and often tried to talk to me, but I always gave evasive answers. Ethan, we can't go on like this. She finally couldn't hold back one evening. How long are you going to stay so cold? I am not cold. I am taking care of you and the child, I said without looking up from the newspaper. But you never talk to me, never even look at me. Her voice choked. What's the point of a marriage like this? I put down the newspaper and looked at her. Grace, this is the marriage you wanted. You used the child to tie me down, and now you have what you wanted. I didn't want to tie you down. I hoped we could start over, she said eagerly. Start over. I sneered. Grace, do you think time heals all wounds? Every time I see you, I am reminded of your betrayal. But I've really changed. And so what if you've changed? I cut her off. Grace, Some wounds never heal. What you have now is the consequence of the choices you made. My words made her cry, but my heart had turned to stone. I would no longer soften for her tears. And so, we maintained this seemingly intact but actually shattered marriage. The child grew older day by day, and my love for him deepened. But for Grace, my heart grew colder and colder. Sometimes I thought, perhaps divorce would be a relief for both of us. But seeing the child's innocent smile, I couldn't bear to break up his family. This was the helplessness of adulthood, sacrificing one's own happiness for responsibility. When the child was 2, something happened that completely disheartened me. The day I came home from work to find a guest at the house, it was Kevin. He was sitting on my couch, chatting and laughing with Grace, completely acting as if he owned the place. What are you doing here? I looked at him coldly. Mr. Ethan, don't misunderstand. Kevin stood up, saying awkwardly, I just came to see the child. See the child. My anger instantly flared. What right do you have to see my child? Ethan, don't be like this, Grace said hastily. Kevin, he what? I turned to look at Grace. You two are in contact again. We're just friends, Grace tried to explain. Friends? I sneered. Grace, do you take me for an idiot? Kevin sensed the bad atmosphere and quickly said, Mr. Ethan, you've misunderstood. I truly just came to see Leo. No need, I said coldly. Don't bother coming again. After left, I looked at Grace, my anger uncontrollable. When did you two get back in touch? It was just a while ago. He contacted me, Grace said, lowering her head, and then I pressed. Then we just chatted occasionally. Nothing else, she hastily explained. Nothing else. I took out my phone. Then I'll call him right now and ask what you two talked about. No. Grace hastily stopped me. Ethan, believe me, we really didn't do anything. Seeing her reaction, I knew it wasn't that simple. Grace, I gave you a chance, but you didn't cherish it. I sat tiredly on the couch. This time, I won't be soft-hearted. What do you want to do? She looked at me in horror. Divorce, I said calmly. This time, we're really getting a divorce. No, you can't do this. She hastily knelt before me. Ethan, please, for the child, we can't divorce. For the child. I looked at her. Grace, do you think growing up in a home environment like this is good for him? I swear I'll never contact Kevin again, she cried. Your vows mean nothing to me anymore. I stood up. Tomorrow, I am going to see the lawyer. This time, I am fighting for custody of the child. You can't take my child. Grace cried loudly. Then you need to act like a fit mother, I said coldly. Don't let me see you involved with any other men again. This incident was the final straw that broke our marriage. I realized that even for the child, I couldn't continue living like this anymore. The next day, I went to the law firm. Mr. Ethan, are you sure you want a divorce? The lawyer seemed surprised. Last time, didn't you say you wanted to maintain the marriage for the child's sake? Things have changed. I told him about yesterday's events. I can't tolerate her betrayal anymore. How do you plan to handle the child custody issue? The lawyer asked. I want to fight for custody of the child, I said firmly. I don't feel comfortable leaving the child with her. That might be difficult. After all, the child is still young, and courts usually lean towards granting custody to the mother, the lawyer reminded me. Then what should I do? I felt a bit worried. You'll need to prove that she's unfit to raise the child, for example, if she has bad habits or questionable moral character. The lawyer said. I thought for a moment, does her cheating count? That can be taken into consideration, but it's not a decisive factor. The lawyer shook his head. You'd best find more direct evidence. Leaving the law firm, my mood was heavy. For the child's sake, I had to find a way to gain custody. Back at the office, I couldn't focus on work. I kept thinking about it. When I got home that evening, Grace was breastfeeding the child. Seeing this warm scene, a complex emotion welled up inside me. Perhaps I should give her another chance. But thinking of Kevin sitting on my couch yesterday, my heart hardened again. Ethan, can we talk? Grace put the child back in the crib and looked at me cautiously. Go on, I said, sitting on the couch. I truly know I was wrong. I swear I'll never contact Kevin again, and I'll never betray you. She knelt before me. Please don't divorce me. Don't take my child away. Looking at her pleading face, I felt no sympathy whatsoever. Grace, you've betrayed me twice now. I looked at her coldly. The first time was physically cheating. The second time was emotionally cheating. Do you think I can still trust you? But I really didn't do anything with him. She tried to explain. Then why were you secretly contacting him? I cut her off. If it was really nothing, why couldn't it be out in the open? My question left her speechless. Grace, let's end this. I stood up. It's better for everyone this way. No, I won't agree to a divorce. She suddenly shouted. If you insist on divorcing, I'll take the child and leave, and you'll never see him again. Hearing that, my anger instantly flared. You wouldn't dare. Watch me. She also stood up, confronting me. Grace, the child is my son. You have no right to deny me the right to see him. I said angrily. And you have no right to deny me the right to be a mother, she retorted without backing down. We stood there confronting each other, neither willing to back down. Ultimately, it was the child's crying that broke the stalemate. We both turned to look at the child simultaneously. Perhaps our arguing had scared him. Looking at the child's innocent face, a wave of guilt washed over me. For this child, I couldn't continue like this with Grace. All right, I finally compromised. I won't divorce, but I need you to swear that from now on, you won't have any improper relationships with anyone else. I swear, she said hastily. Ethan, thank you for giving me a chance. This is your last chance. I warned her. If it happens again, I won't be soft-hearted. She nodded repeatedly, her eyes full of gratitude. But I knew our marriage was already dead in all but name. The only reason I wasn't divorcing was entirely for the child. In the following days, Grace did indeed rein herself in a lot. She stopped contacting Kevin, rarely went out, and put all her energy into caring for the child. But our relationship didn't improve because of this. Instead, it grew even more distant. We lived under the same roof like strangers, with almost no communication except about the child. Sometimes I wondered, what was the point of a life like this? But seeing the child's innocent smile, I felt it was all worth it. When the child was 3, he started to understand things. He often asked me why mom and dad didn't talk or play together. Every time this happened, I didn't know how to answer. Ethan, we can't go on like this anymore. Grace finally couldn't help but say one evening, the child has started noticing our problems. So, what do you want to do? I asked indifferently. Let's try to start over. Her eyes gleamed with hope for the child. Let's try to fix our relationship. I looked at her, feeling no ripple of emotion in my heart. Grace, do you think that's possible? Why not? She said urgently. We loved each other so much once. Why can't we start over? Because trust has been shattered. I shook my head. Can love without trust still be called love? Then we can rebuild trust, she persisted. How can we rebuild it? I sneered. Grace, do you think I can still trust you? My words left her speechless, and her tears fell again. If you truly care about the child, then settle down and be a good mother. I stood up, preparing to go upstairs. As for our relationship problems, let's not bring them up again. Ethan, do you truly not love me at all anymore? She asked from behind me. I stopped, thought for a moment, and said, perhaps there's still a little, but that bit of love has been almost entirely eroded by your betrayal. With that, I went upstairs to my room. Yes, Grace and I had been sleeping in separate rooms for a long time. Lying in bed, I thought of the wonderful times when we first got married. Grace was so pure and lovely then, and we were so in love. But now, everything had changed. Perhaps, this was the reality of marriage. Not all love stories had perfect endings. When the child was 5, something happened that made me finally make up my mind. That day, I returned from a business trip to find another guest at home. This time, it wasn't Kevin, but a man I didn't know, Daddy. The child saw me return, and happily ran to hug me. Leo, Daddy's home. I picked up the child and looked at the stranger. Mr. Ethan, hello. The man stood up and offered his hand. I am a friend of Grace's. My name is Daniel. I didn't shake his hand. Instead, I looked coldly at Grace, another friend. Ethan, don't misunderstand. Grace hastily explained. I am not misunderstanding. I put the child down. I saw clearly what was happening. Daniel sensed the bad atmosphere and quickly said, Mr. Ethan, you've misunderstood. I really just came to see Leo. No need. I said coldly. Don't bother coming again, after left. I looked at Grace, my anger uncontrollable. What exactly are you trying to do? I demanded. He really is just a friend. I met him at the park. Grace tried to explain. The park. I sneered. When did you start going to the park? I met him when I took Leo to the park, she stammered. And then you brought him home. My voice grew colder. Grace, do you take me for a fool? We really didn't do anything, she said hastily. Grace, I don't want to hear your explanations anymore. I sank onto the couch, feeling utterly exhausted. This time, my mind's truly made up. Let's get a divorce. No. She quickly knelt before me. Ethan, I swear I didn't do anything this time. Your vows mean nothing to me anymore. I looked at her. Grace, we're both tired. Let's just end it. But what about Leo? She cried. I will fight for custody, I stated firmly. I can't let our child grow up in an environment like this. You can't take my child, she screamed, then act like a proper mother. I retorted furiously. Do you really think your behavior right now is worthy of a mother? Our son started crying. Scared by our argument, I rushed to pick him up. Daddy, why are you and Mommy fighting? Tears welled up in his eyes. Looking at his innocent gaze, a wave of guilt washed over me. Leo, Mommy and Daddy are just discussing things, not fighting, I whispered, comforting him. But I knew I couldn't let our child continue to grow up in an environment like this. For his healthy upbringing, I had to end this broken marriage. The next day, I went to the law firm again. Mr. Ethan, Payback, the lawyer said, a bit surprised to see me. This time, my mind's made up. I stated firmly, please help me prepare the documents for the divorce proceedings. All right, and regarding the child's custody, I have to fight for it. I interrupted him. No matter the cost. The lawyer nodded. I understand. I'll do my best to help you. Leaving the law firm, I felt a sense of relief, but also worry for the future. But I knew this was the choice I had to make. For myself, this broken marriage, it should end. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, please like and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comment section.